progress. And we're back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. This is Dan, the Part-Time Avenger. That's Mark, the Resident Jedi.
Hello there. Today is a very special and odd and day I never thought that I'd be talking about. It's a very special episode of the I Can Do This All Day podcast. Apparently, we've reached a milestone. We've done this 100 times.
100 times?
100 times. 100 times we've sat down across either a table or a virtual arena from each other and discussed something that was on our minds. This has been two men's struggle to talk about movies, and we've subjected people to our voices and our thoughts triple digits now.
Pretty awesome milestone, in my opinion. This started off as just a fun little way for us to kind of keep in contact. I've been wanting to do a podcast forever, and I was surprised when I asked you, like, hey man, you want to just talk about some movies and Marvel and shit like we always do and just do a podcast? And you agreed. Do you remember that same conversation, or was it different in your eyes?
I feel like we've had the conversation like 3 times before we finally ramped up and like actually did something. I think we didn't have a great movie to start with or anything at first. Obviously we did once we kicked it off, but also we each got, at least 6 months of virtual chops in, conversations or meetings or just the virtual arena before we really dug into this, right? I think we were both going a little crazy. We normally would see each other every couple months when one of us was traveling around a lot, and then the world shut down and we didn't really travel. So we were talking on some kind of virtual medium anyway. And it just worked out that we could start doing this a little bit more and have the same ridiculous conversations we used to have in private, but now let people into that and hopefully give people like an outlet to escape a little bit. At least that's the way I saw it. Like, I don't think that I pontificate anything impactful. I just think that I'm good background noise.
For me, it was I don't know if you really want to do this. So I threw it out there again just to gauge what your reaction was, and it was consistent across the board. It's like, hey, let's go ahead and do this. And yeah, here we are, 100 episodes later, momentous occasion. But today we're going to talk a little bit about what we have done and just kind of really reflect on what the good stuff, what the bad stuff was, and the surprises. One of the big things I obviously we do a movie podcast. So for you, I mean, do you want to talk about, like, in your opinion, what the best 5 movies that you think that we watched?
Yeah, no, I think that one of the benefits of this, right, is when we used to get together, it would not be nearly as frequently, and we'd end up talking about like a dearth of things that had accumulated over time. So we got that out early in the podcast, right? We did a lot of rankings and a lot of, random Marvel and Star Wars stuff. But I think that as we dug into, like, we're going to do this weekly, we need a weekly topic. We started just grabbing movies that were either, something I liked or something you liked or something we'd never seen before. New releases, things that were critically acclaimed, things that were not so critically acclaimed. So much stuff. And
Samaritan, by the way, one of our top viewed episodes and top listened to episodes.
And movies that were very bad. But I think that was the fun part for me is I've watched a ton of movies and I intake a lot of media, but this definitely made me more thoughtful about the things that I would go out and watch, because we would be kind of pushing each other, right? We were the workout buddies of watching new movies, if you will, right? So there'd be
one
like
more movie. Come
accountability.
on, check out the post-credit scenes. One more,
Dude,
more
watch The Thing is great. Yeah, so I think that's been the fun part for me. So there's been a few movies that have stuck out to me as just things that I don't think I would have watched without the podcast.
Okay.
right? Do you have a similar list as well? Do you want to back and forth it, or do you want me to go the full
Yeah,
list?
just it's your list, so let's just put the spotlight on you.
So for me, there's a few things, and I'm going to kind of group them into things I didn't expect to be good, and then things that you picked that were surprisingly good. Um, so let's call three things I don't know that I would have watched and that were excessively good, like things I can do all day, if you will. The first one, it took us a while to watch it. And after we did, I was like, why the hell didn't we watch this right away? What is wrong with us? And that's Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Agreed.
I I probably would have caught it down the road because I like Jamie Lee Curtis, but I don't know that I would have jumped at it in the way that we did. Like it would have been post Oscars. And I don't think I would have enjoyed that Oscars nearly as much, not knowing just how awesome that movie was. Um, so that for me is probably number one on the things that I watched for the podcast that I probably wouldn't have gravitated to as soon. You feel the same way about that one, or
Yeah, that was actually on my list. I have it a slight deviation for my list, but no, keep going with your list. It's good stuff.
yeah, yeah. The next two are both Nick Cage movies. Um, and it's not that I don't like Nick Cage. It's that I haven't given Nick Cage a lot of credit lately. And I think the last two Nick Cage movies we watched, Renfield and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, were such like crisp movies that I just really enjoyed and are like in a rotation. That my wife really enjoyed. That I don't think would have like I said, I don't think it'd have been like, oh, there's a Nick Cage vampire movie. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Not something that I think would have come across. And as much as I enjoy Pedro Pascal, I was 50-50 on that movie, and I'm 100% on it now. 100% that it's amazing. Those are the
Great. Yeah, that movie is great. Just I mean the memes and short little templates that have been made from, like with that song and him looking over at Nick Cage with a big smile, like that's something that was super surprising to me. And even within like the first couple minutes, I was like, all right, you got me. I'm hooked. I'm gonna finish the rest of this movie. I was super curious as to what everything was gonna happen in this movie because I wasn't sure where it was going until about halfway through that I realized, like, okay, yeah, this will just be a fun romp with Nick Cage, and everything is gonna be ridiculous, and that's okay because Nick Cage is ridiculous. So
but
that's why
when's the
I'll
last
watch that
time we
movie.
had a fun romp with Nick Cage?
I can't remember.
Exactly.
Honestly, can't remember.
Since since he was Castor Troy. Like I don't even know. Like
I mean, Kick-Ass, I loved Kick-Ass, but he
yeah,
wasn't, the forefront of that
yeah,
movie, but
yeah.
great
But I mean,
character.
this was like the resurgence, the Cage Renaissance, if you will.
A true
Um,
Renaissance man.
yeah. And then there's three older movies that you specifically picked for the pod that I don't know that I would have seen or seen again and realized how great they were. Top of that list is Top Secret. I
Oh
I
yeah.
I don't think I would have touched that movie again. And I hadn't seen it in full in forever. I didn't remember any of it. Like it was almost like I'd never seen it before.
Okay.
And we did that watch along, and that movie is just great.
Oh,
Um,
that wasn't a watch along. We watched that. Um, you're thinking of, well, I don't know what you're thinking of,
I
but
could
yeah,
be
we
thinking of
definitely
Hot
watched
Shots.
that. Yeah, maybe, but no, even that wasn't
Was
even a
it? I
watch
don't
along
know.
either.
I don't know. But I hadn't watched Top Secret
These are the
in a
problems that
while.
we have when we have 100. That's
100
right,
episodes to remember.
100 episodes.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just the two of us. Like there's nobody we can yell at to Google something in the background. We're not getting free Alpha Brain to take every time we do this podcast. Like
We don't even have
AG1's not hooking us up.
yeah, we
I'm
don't
not
even
getting
have
my greens. I
Fleshlight.
can't remember.
No Fleshlight is a sponsor or anything like
I
that.
mean,
Not to say that we
I
would
gotta,
or would not,
you
but
gotta up those numbers. You got those are
I
rookie
thought
numbers. You gotta up those numbers. Where you at, Fleshlight?
I thought that was a prerequisite for anyone starting a podcast. First, you get Fleshlight as a sponsor, and then you go on to other things.
I
So,
mean, my family listens to this podcast, but I think my family would love me to get paid by Fleshlight,
Fleshlight,
even if it was like $5. I mean,
Fleshlight, we're here for you. Just like I'm sure you would be there for us if we really
oh,
needed you. So,
we rib you for your pleasure. That's what we do
oh
here.
man. But yes,
Oh man.
agree 100% for that list. And you had was it one more?
I have two more and I'll
Two
go
more.
fast on them. Both of them were you. Both of them were things I'd never seen, and I liked both of them for different reasons. One, because it brought me into more conversations. I didn't like I thought the movie was kind of dumb, but it just brought me into more of like, I pick it out now as more homages. And one that was just like, where was this movie? It's so good. Um, the one that brings me into more Easter eggs in movies is The Thing, and the one that was like, this is really good is In Bruges.
Okay.
In Bruges, great recommendation, total Dan pick, and just like a solid movie.
Well, I appreciate the kudos and compliments. I try to pick movies that I think we'll enjoy. I really try not to pick stuff that is just going to be a 1 hour crap fest on.
Oh
But
man, that's just where you and I differ apparently.
I
But
I know, believe me, I know because I could go on a list of all the movies that you
I mean,
recommended.
so like your recommendation, I have fully exhausted my list. That was the culmination of my listing process. I'm going to pass the fleshlight over to you so you can knock out your list.
I will politely decline the same fleshlight, but I'll go on to my list. So mine was a little bit different. I wanted to kind of pick out not for who picked the movie, but just for the sheer appreciation and my sheer admiration of these movies. And it's a top five list of the movies that I believe we watched for the podcast as a whole. So all 100 episodes, the top five movies, in my opinion, that just are always going to be that standard for me. And the first one is going to be, and I'll start with like the recent ones and then go back to some of the older ones, but Spider-Man No Way Home. Granted, I was going to see that movie if we were doing a podcast regardless, but geez, that was the best Spider-Man movie. And you may say that Into the Spider-Verse was a better movie. I've said it on the podcast before, but you're never going to see an animated movie at the top of the list just because I like the way that you can do this in real life and emote that. It's kind of cheap. If you can do it on a video game or if you can do it with animation, that's kind of like a loophole for me to where I'm not like, yeah, it's a great movie, but it's not the best, right? So that's where I think about Spider-Man No Way Home, and it really helped fix a lot of the critiques that Spider-Man in the MCU had. So now it's kind of starting fresh. He has like his origin story. Aunt May dying was a twist that I did not see coming, but perfectly executed, and an emotional moment in the theater for not only myself but other people in the theater where they're like sobbing. So, Spider-Man: No Way Home, another one, another emotional pick, another MCU pick, but Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The perfect end to a trilogy for James Gunn and his ragtag group of space misfits. Just very well done, and I enjoy it. The music brought me back to some moments in junior high and high school, and Florence and the Machine with Dog Days Are Gone are just such a perfect song and a perfect end to that movie. Very, very cool. I don't think there will be another in movie experience that will have me in the moment and emotional and just kind of rooting for the characters on the screen like I did for that. Going back into the catalog, I'll have to go with one Quentin Tarantino movie that we did for Retro Rewind, which, by the way, we'll talk about Retro Rewind on another segment of this episode. But Pulp Fiction, it was so good to watch that for the podcast and dive a little bit deeper because it's been only like maybe 2 years since I'd seen the movie until I rewatched it for the podcast. But it was like a new way to look at it because from a below average podcaster's perspective, I thought it was just really cool to kind of pick some new things. And we had a lot of fun things to banter about because it's from the 90s. It has a lot of influences from so many decades past and a lot of different movie stars. And it's just an expert Tarantino film. That's just, I'm really sad. I think we should definitely do his last movie that he does, and whatever that's going to be. But Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction, Bruce Willis, John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, just a fantastic cast. Ving Rhames, everyone from A to Z, just the best. Now, I'll go into two separate kind of different ways to look at movies. Number one is going to be like that fantasy science fiction type of thing, and you disagree with me on this one, but we did watch Terminator for Retro Rewind. Still one of my favorite movies. What I think is still the best Terminator movie out of everything, barring CGI and stuff like that. They used different effects for that, but if James Cameron had the same effects as he did, if he would have waited for that, which he kind of did with Terminator 2, was kind of a rehash of the original Terminator, still loved it. And you crapped on that movie. You thought it was dog shit.
Because Terminator
So
2 was the obvious better movie.
Terminator's the better movie. Terminator 2 is the more action-packed movie. So I think that's where the difference lies. I think Terminator 1 was more of the almost aliens or predator type of suspense, to where it's like, what the hell is going to go on? Is this killing machine really going to be stopped? I mean, it just took 8 shotgun blasts to the chest and it's still alive. So there was that. But Terminator 2, you knew what you were walking into, with the exception of T-1000, which was fantastic. I love Terminator 2. And do I put it above Terminator 1 in my personal rankings? Yes, just because I enjoy it more because there's more action. But I think Terminator 1, as a story and from a narrative perspective, I believe that is the better movie. But
I mean,
then,
this is a great example of how in every podcast episode there's so much hypocrisy and so much disagreement. And this is why everybody should just listen to the back catalog, to the new stuff. Like Danny flip-flops like Mary Lou Retton. And then at the end, he just hits it. That. He's like right there, does one of these, and the crowd goes wild.
that is a tagline. The hypocrisy is strong with this podcast and with Mark and myself alike, because it's just fun. Let's just be honest. It's fun to be a hypocrite, and it's so much more beneficial in so many different ways. Do it in your work, your personal life, and your hobbies. Hypocrisy is definitely the way to go. But the last movie
Spoken
I
like a
want to
true
talk
hypocrite.
about. Yeah, exactly. But am I the hypocrite or are you the hypocrite? I don't know. Playing blame game is always a fun one too
Maybe the
on this
listener
podcast.
should comment below. Who's the
Comment
biggest
below of who's the bigger hypocrite, and we know it's going to be Mark.
hypocrite?
So the last episode, or the last movie that I want to talk about, is very uncharacteristic of me. For those that have even watched maybe like 2 podcasts or listened to 2 podcasts from us, know that I like kind of the dark and dreary movies. This one could be kind of dark and dreary, but really it's a feel-good movie for the most part. And the lead actor in this is no longer with us. And this was actually a movie that I think we just decided to do because it happened. Like, we were looking for an episode for Columbus Day. We couldn't find anything. And then we were thinking, like, wait a second. What about Chris Columbus, the director? We'll celebrate him. And so we picked what I think probably both of our favorite movies of his is, and that's going to be Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin Williams, expert performance, and really just such a good, fun movie. I had so much fun rewatching this for the podcast, and I had so much more fun talking about it. It was great. I
I
don't know,
agree.
just loved it.
Did you go to the restaurant yet?
No, I haven't been back. I haven't been back to the West Coast since. I probably won't be back for a while. So, but yeah, Bridges, 7 o'clock. If I do go out there, I'm gonna eat at Bridges, 7 o'clock. But
I
that's
think
my
you should.
list for top 5 movies for the podcast.
I'm shocked that Shang-Chi was not on that list.
It was a good movie. It was a very good
I'm
movie.
shocked that it wasn't
You're a
on that
Shang-Chi
list.
hater. You are a Shang-Chi hater.
I
Um,
mean, it just it was very
so
formulaic.
when we talked about like the best movies, right? What about some like blunders or missteps that we've done for the podcast? I know you
Oh
have a
man.
few that you can think of, but
I mean,
what are some of
so
the things that we messed up?
I don't know if they're blunders. I think that they're learning opportunities, right? When we first started, we got really into retro rewind and we had a lot of movies we wanted to do. And we also thought that it would be really, really strong as creators to make 2 hour plus episodes. So we would try and cram multiple movies into a single episode because 2 hours is, let's go. Um, for
Remember
those of
too,
you
our
that have
first
stuck with us.
episode was over 2 hours.
Well, yeah, but I mean that was a great movie that we just rolled on
Great
for a
list of
while.
movies. We did
Yeah,
what, 19 Spider-Man movies or whatever the hell
yeah,
it
there was a
was.
lot. There was a lot.
No, it
We
wasn't
we were
19,
pretty
but you know,
long in the beginning.
yeah.
We were pretty long, and as much as that's super fun, and we got a lot of that out of the way, I think kind of our it set our mindset or our thinking or our tastes out there. I I think that got like just from a podcast perspective, it got real chunky to do, right? So I think it was a good decision that we made to limit our podcast to one movie. Usually, I mean, unless we do like a ranking, but those we
Yeah.
still have promised each other we will not overly prosaically ramble through our thoughts on singular films. That for me was one. I mean, I think you feel the same way about that, especially as the um the single most valuable editor that anybody on this podcast has ever had.
You mean as the producer and editor of the podcast? Yes. Yeah,
That
definitely
guy,
it
that fucking
definitely
guy.
helps my personal life. At the beginning, my wife was like completely supporting my avenging and podcasting, but at the same time, when it was taking me like 6 hours to figure out the software, figure out editing, taking out like little things here and there, and then fucking it all up and having to restart over again.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was pretty tough for me. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, you know, we want to give people what they want, but at the same time, we could do that one movie at a time, unless we're doing a ranking, and we could debate about that stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the things I wanted to put out there was a complete misstep on my part, and that is just the sheer etiquette of when you go to the bathroom. And so, for any of those who had tuned into the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles podcast, or even saw some of our shorts or reels on social media, I had to throw up the timeout because I had explosive diarrhea and I did not go before the podcast. And I was in such pain. I was sweating as the podcast was starting. And I was thinking, I could do this. I can get through this. And like, nope, like 5 minutes in. And you're like, go, get the fuck out of here. Go.
I remember an episode we had to redo because we didn't hit record.
Yes.
Um, and I don't think we didn't redo it the same night, did we?
No, we didn't because we
We were
had
both
gone.
like we're both tired as hell.
I was on the
Um,
road. I was on a work trip.
yeah,
And this particular work trip, I was doing like 12 to 13 to 14-hour days.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, not only do I have shitty hotel Wi-Fi, but we talked for an hour and a half. So we almost finished the Black Panther Wakanda Forever episode. And then at the end, I'm just like, I didn't fucking hit record.
Yeah,
So
and
we
we
had
both thought
to
it was
redo it.
good. Like that was the sad part is
Yeah.
we were both tired, but we thought we like laid down like at least usable quality. Not that we've ever re-recorded anything, but like it was like a bang up, and then we had to go back through
I
the
gotta
same
ask you,
notes.
were you pissed?
Why would I be pissed?
You know, it's like not even like, what the fuck? I just wasted an hour and a half of my life. I was pissed. I was embarrassed because I felt bad for you. And then I felt bad for myself because, like, you dumbass, you could have been sleeping right now. Or at least, at the very least, finish the episode and have it like ready to go because I had another 12-hour workday ahead of me the next day. But
Yeah,
I
no, I
was
work from
so
home, dude. I
flustered.
was good. I was fine. I was fine.
I mean,
And I got to work up some. I don't know if they show up in the episode or if there's any glowing like one-liners in there, but I got to like think a little on thoughts there. I don't know if it came out, but
we
I always like to fail at quips because then maybe they come back around.
we definitely just omitted um a few things from that original attempt at doing the podcast. Because when we went around the second time, we almost it's funny because I think we almost fell into a groove of like recited almost the same exact things that we were talking about before, but then it got to like a certain point where it's like, yep, fuck it. We'll just not talk about anything else. Let's
Mhm.
just end it and just
Yeah.
just give our rankings for it. So yeah, that was I definitely remember that one. But also, there was another mistake that I think may just be the biggest mistake, but perhaps one of the most talked about mistakes that we've had, and that's watching the Star Wars Holiday Special, which it has come up again in the episode, and I think it's going to come up in every episode here on out until we watch another awful movie. But dude, I I think it was a mistake watching that because it's burned in my brain and I can't
I
stop thinking about it.
like there's some bad movies we've watched. Some of them on purpose, right? Like I got you to watch Nothing But Trouble, which I think is an immaculately terrible movie. Like
It's
so
something.
bad it's great, right? And for some reason you thought it was a good idea to watch the Star Wars Holiday Special. You brought it up, and I was like, "No, I'll let you experience that." Because I'd
It,
watched it before, like, in my 20s, and I knew it was bad. Um,
in my defense, you never told me
no, why
that's
would I
like
tell you?
you
Why would I tell
because
you?
because I'm your friend, damn it, and you should watch out for your friends. But
I
uh
think that what I did is give the listeners a wonderful Christmas gift of just your disdain with the horrible, just terrible thing that is the Star Wars Holiday Special. Like,
yeah,
what better gift can we give the people that spend their hours intaking our dribble, but to give them quality dribble, where Dan can't say anything nice about it. It has to be bad. Oh,
I did say something nice about it, and it was Harrison Ford. He was the bright spot in that movie, which he didn't even want to be there, but at the same time, he did a pretty serviceable job as Han Solo. It was good to see him.
how many days shooting you think that was for him?
I don't think he remembers. I think he chooses to block it out. There was a clip that I saw that he watched on whether it was Conan or something like that, and he was so embarrassed to watch his acting in it that I was like, dude, you did a good job. I don't know why you're so embarrassed. He was probably embarrassed just to be associated with it, but he himself was a bright spot, in my
I
opinion.
still love the story about Carrie Fisher turning that on when she wants people to leave parties,
Yeah,
when she
it's
wanted people
good.
to leave. I just love that
It's good.
idea. Love it.
Any other gems or turds that we threw out there for the podcast that you can
I
think
mean,
of?
we always joke about Samaritan, and you know, it is what it is. Like, it's a movie trying to catch on to the comic thing, and there have been bad movies like that a lot. Some of them with Sylvester Stallone, right? Like the OG Judge Dredd. Like, I love that movie. I think it's so bad it's great. Like, I absolutely love it, but it's not good. It's not like really tight to the source material, but it's hilarious, right? Like, signal flare.
Yes.
It's great. But this movie was not great. And the fact that we're gonna get another one, like, what a gift to us. What
It
a
is.
wonderful thing that we can like bring to the listeners, right? Before I transition, right? Because I want to talk about things we're excited for in 24 movies that people can look forward to us talking about. Are there any other stinkers you want to bring up?
The only other thing would have to be the hate that we received for just being honest about not knowing who Blue Beetle was. Like there was a string of YouTube comments that were just like, such a like we really butthurt the DC fanboys, and they were just like, "Yeah, we know that you know who it is. I don't know why you're saying that you don't." It's because I didn't. I'd never heard of them, and it's like,
Yeah.
just the comments were just hilarious. Like, obviously, no one's played Injustice 2 before. It's like, no, I haven't. I played the
No,
first one, never played the second one,
nobody.
but I guess
Fighting
he's in it.
games. Fighting games are a no for me. Like, what? No, no. Okay.
But it was
Also,
just kind of
DC
funny.
comics in the 90s that weren't Batman were terrible until they killed Superman. And you know who didn't show up in the death of Superman at all? Fucking Blue Beetle. So
Yeah. That
they
would
need
be
a
the only
fleshlight to work
other
it out. That's
stinker.
what those guys need. They need a
The
fleshlight to work out their feelings.
oof, and what a workout it could be.
Oh, it's just
A solid 2 minutes of
yeah, it's just
hardcore cardio right
yeah,
there.
just it's the shake weight for men.
Uh, but no, that's it. Feel free to transition, as you say.
So I'm interested. Like we talked about this a little bit already, and I think that 2024 gives us a very interesting paradigm. Right? We are by name and by intro a superhero slash Star Wars podcast, and 2024 brings a very interesting array of movies. Very few of them being superhero Star Wars based, right?
There there are superhero movies slated. I think there's like 5 or 6, so that's like one every other month. But only one of them is an MCU movie. So those are the only ones that we care about, right? So yeah, we're gonna have to dig deep a little bit.
Like I'm both excited and um interested to see how we find our way through 2024, the post strike year. But there's things that I'm super excited to see, right? Your shirt brings one to mind, one of my favorite on-screen podcast shirts, right? Because Busted makes me feel good too, Fleshlight. And there's a new Ghostbusters movie coming out very soon that like I remember being stoked for the first one, thinking, "Oh my gosh, will they bring the original guys back?" And now, fucking all of them are back, and they're back with a vengeance. So I'm really excited for that movie. Is there? You want to go? What are you excited for there?
Deadpool 3, the unification of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. It's gotta be freaking awesome. It's going to be. At the very least, it's going to be really entertaining. And I just as much as we've discussed like the MCU is kind of in flux, and I am not one of those MCU haters or critiquers thinking like the MCU's gone down the toilet. I think you might be, but it's not that bad. The movies are not that bad. It's just not as good as some of the other top tier Marvel movies. So really, for me, I mean, Deadpool, I thoroughly enjoyed, but you got Hugh Jackman coming back with the claws and with a pretty close, accurate comic suit. So I'm excited to see him actually don the mask. But there's going to be some pretty big cameos in there, and I think this is going to be something that will help save and reignite the MCU.
I'm
But
gonna
that's what I
say
look forward
something.
to.
I'm gonna say something you're not gonna like. I really hope that this movie is more Deadpool 1, not Deadpool 2. As much as Deadpool 2 was good, it also for me does not have the rewatch. And I really, really want this Hugh Jackman Ryan Reynolds movie to be good.
I didn't like Francis Ajax. I didn't really like him as the villain. And so I think that's the reason why I liked Deadpool 2, because you had a good chunk of villainy and you got a comic accurate Juggernaut, which was hilarious.
I thought it
So
would be
that was
your
pretty sweet.
undying love for Brad Pitt that made you a Deadpool 2 fan.
Yeah. No, it's actually who what's his name? What's his name? Louis Tan is Shatterstar. The fact that the complete obliteration of Shatterstar, who was one of my favorites growing up, as he was part of the X-Force. I had his action, I still have his action figure, and I was thinking like, yes, Shatterstar, this is gonna be awesome. And then he gets fucking
Somebody
obliterated. I
broke
think,
Dan's only toy. I love
oh
it.
man,
I love it.
it sucked.
Oh
But
man.
no, it was good. I enjoy it. You know, there's no, and I don't hate Deadpool 1 over Deadpool 2, but that's my big thing is Deadpool 3. That is what I am looking forward to the most out of everything. Everything else, I'd kind of be lying. The other stuff that I want to see is going to be like stuff that probably doesn't come out till 2025, like Stranger Things, the final season of Stranger Things, you know? I can't think of anything else that I'm like super hyped about.
Yeah, no, there's a bunch of Star Wars movies in the lurch now, but I'm so like skeptical that they're gonna get made that I whatever. It
I
is
mean,
what it
aren't
is.
we kind of skeptical about the Marvel movies too? Like
Dude, like
that's
we don't know.
yeah,
We don't
no
know. We
idea.
know we're getting Deadpool.
You know
Um,
what else we know that Bustin makes me feel good and it makes you feel good. So Fleshlight, if you're out there, holler at your
just,
boys. God,
give us a rub.
when did this turn into like we're really gunning after Fleshlight on this episode?
I think
Like,
that's one of our goals for 2024 is to do at least one great live read for any brands that want
yeah,
to that want that. Um I think that's one of the only podcast things we haven't done is really be able to riff on some kind of thing.
that would be
And
pretty
and
hilarious.
like I don't even I'm not even I don't even care about the money for that. I care about just being able to make fun of it and have fun.
Would you like brag to like friends and
Not at
coworkers?
all.
Just
Not a little bit. No. No. I
dude, you'll
don't
never
I'm
guess
not
what
that
we did on
guy.
the podcast.
Like my family, some of my family members listen to this podcast and talk to me about it, and I'm just like, yeah, no, it was fun. Like I feel like that's another thing that I get from this is somewhat of an outlet of extroversion because I'm not like this may shock you. I'm not a hugely extroverted person like all the time. Like
Neither
I
am
can
I.
turn it on, I'm good at it, and there's certain people that I just enjoy having conversations with. But like in general, I'm not a big like, look at what I did. This is I'm not the main character here.
There was one time that I really think someone recognized me from the podcast. It was at Universal, but I had overheard it, and the people were like, "Hey, that's," and they were like pointing right at me. Like a group of people were pointing right at me.
They just loved your shirt because Bustin made them feel good too.
I wasn't wearing pants that day, and then security came
Oh,
shortly afterwards. But no, seriously, I think that that was the case. Uh, but who knows if that's really true or not? Maybe they were just being teenagers and they were just making fun of an old man.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
if pee in your pants is cool, then you're Miles Davis. So
It's true. I mean, that's when security came up to me and they're like, "Hey, what's the deal here?" It's like, "Well, you don't want me to wear urine-soaked pants, do you?" And then they say like, "Oh
the
yeah, good
log
point."
flume, it's making me uncomfortable. I'm chafing. Just let me air it out, man.
Oh man. The some of the and just you can tell by like our sense of humor that a lot of our humor stems from movies, and that's the reason why we do this, right? Obviously that's a nice Billy Madison call out, but because that's our favorite, any other favorite moments that you had from the podcast? I just want to talk about one where it was a little bit of a shock, but still just kind of just a fun on the spur of the moment thing where uh our most listened to and viewed episode this year was The Machine, starring Bert Kreischer, and we just decided to an impromptu topless podcast and just took our shirts off. That was just a fun little
I'm sure it was a
episode
treat
and
for
fun little
everybody.
moment.
I think my favorite is still that I still hear about to this day is getting you to watch Nothing But Trouble. I don't know why it's made me so happy over the years, but
Yeah.
that's still like I have not won a podcast wager since then, but
Yeah.
that one was worth it. It's well worth it. Maybe that should be something we do next year or this year. This year. Shit. um, is more podcast wagers, so we can push each other outside of our comfort zones.
One of the things that you just reminded me of is a first for the podcast, and we only did it one time. There was only one time that we've actually been together in one room and did a podcast episode, and that was for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. And just a very cool time to be able to. We had a nice succulent Chinese meal before the podcast, and I ate way too much, of course, because that's just how
We
you do it.
we
Shout out to Moe's in Orland Park. But
yeah
yeah, it was a fun time. Fun time.
yeah we knocked that out. Now we have to come up with a new like next milestone, right? Whether we do a live episode somewhere for like three people to watch,
Yeah, that'd be
whether
cool.
we somehow dragoon ourselves into somebody else's podcast panel. Um, we got to do something. We should make an appearance somewhere.
Does Fleshlight have a podcast? Maybe we should be
I,
on their podcast.
is there a flashlight convention?
We
Probably,
got we got to stop talking
I
about
probably
Fleshlight.
shouldn't
I don't
mention
know,
that.
man.
Um, you can cut that out if you want. Uh,
Oh man,
but I think that
this is all
there's,
staying in, by the way. All
yeah, I'm
staying
sure it
in.
is. There's nothing wrong with that. Um,
Self-sabotage.
yeah,
Self-sabotage our
no,
careers. That's what we got to do.
careers. Um,
Uh,
yeah, no, I think that there's much to look forward to and much fun to be had still. Like, um, I don't think when we started this that I thought, I was just like, I wonder if we'll get to 52, because that would be like a full year. Like, will we do this for a year, like weekly for a year? Like,
yeah,
I
we've
I
never
mean,
missed an
other than
episode.
going to work, I don't know that there's anything that I've done weekly for a year.
Yeah, this really is like. What did
Side
you
note,
say earlier? Like
side note,
the
hang on a second. I'm just gonna call you out for missing an opportunity for a flashlight promo on that one. But ask your question anyway.
um.
Not gonna get
Well,
promos if you don't show them. We can set them up, Dan.
I forgot the one thing on the Impossible episode is our scissoring each other
Oh, so many
multiple times
scissors.
on camera.
So many
So it was
scissors.
just and yes, it sounds exactly how it sounds. We scissored each other. So for anyone who's listening on the audio version of it, use your imagination.
Or don't.
Yeah,
Or
or
don't.
don't. Because we still like our jobs and we still want to work and make a living.
No, I just look forward to more bad movies and more feeling obligated to watch them, right? Like the Morbius of 2024 is Madam Web, and that's gonna be fun when that hits streaming for us
So
to watch.
Dakota Johnson said that you're gonna love this movie. As a matter of fact, you're gonna see it twice. So I don't know. Dakota Johnson has no credibility in my eyes now after saying that because
Has,
does she realize that she made a Sony Marvel movie, not an MCU movie?
I'm trying to think if there's any movie by Dakota Johnson that's ever been good.
21 Jump Street, she's in it.
She's in it for like a minute, right?
That's okay. She's still in it. Great movie. I just want to talk about 21 Jump Street because that's just so fun.
She was in The Social Network, which was really good.
She
And
was in
Bad
that for
Times
like
at
eight
El
minutes.
Royale. Bad Times at El Royale was a good movie, but
That was a tough watch for me, and I love Hemsworth. It was just like it kind of dragged on for a little too long, but yeah, I would. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. I don't even know if I'd necessarily recommend it, but I would just say like, yeah, if you like Hemsworth, watch it, and
she
that's
was in
it.
the 5 Year Engagement.
Never
She
saw.
wasn't a she was not a prominent character. You've never seen that?
Come on.
Oh, slated for 24, baby. Jason Segel and Emily Blunt. Let's go.
I like how you're like, you've never seen that rom-com movie? Come on. That's like you don't even know me.
I mean, Jason Segel does get shot with an arrow in the movie, so there is violence.
No.
Oh
But an
man, I
action
see a
movie it is not.
Valentine's Day special coming up here in the 5 Year Engagement.
Oh
Bookmark it.
man.
Market 8, dude.
Actually, I probably wouldn't mind watching that. That would be a movie that I wouldn't mind watching. But Yeah.
I mean, dude, yes, yes, I love it. I love it. Your wife will love it too. It'll be a Valentine's Day, just wonderful.
Sometimes I get things wrong, but you know what? Sometimes the podcast does things wrong too. But were there any movies that you had said that you can do this all day, and then you kind of like looking back at it, like, yeah, I want to walk that one back, or vice
I
versa. Maybe you said, you know, nah, I'm never gonna do this again. It's like, actually, yeah, I can do this all day, and you kind of grew to love the movie.
I think right before we started the podcast, we welcomed our first kid, and one of the things that has happened in my life is I am not rewatching nearly as much as I used to. So my equation for can do this all day, the measurables are a little wonky right now. My KPIs are all off. Um,
For all you professionals out there, this is
yeah,
really, really good
but
lingo.
but I use it more as a I like this and would rewatch it as opposed to, oh my God, I would delete this if I owned it. Um, and I don't think there's anything I really regret. Um, I rewatched Ant-Man, the new Ant-Man movie, and it was better more recently. But I think that's because I've seen so many worse Marvel movies since. Um, so maybe I'll even give like Shang-Chi a rewatch. If I'm bored. And maybe that'll be a regret on that. But I don't, other than Ant-Man, I guess. I don't have
Really.
anything. Yeah.
I've I've got a few. So there's a couple that really come off the top of my head, and that's our retro rewind. And one of them was uh Rocky Horror Picture Show. I had said that I can do this all day, and at the time I truly believed it because it was so off the wall, batshit crazy and weird. And I like that stuff usually, but it wasn't my brand of batshit crazy and weird. And I have not touched it since. I've not rewatched it. I've not even really given. I may have thought in my head like, hmm, maybe the wife will want to watch this, and like I stopped myself after that. I was like, nah, I'm not even gonna ask her. And so maybe that'll change. But yeah, I did say that I can do it all day, but obviously I'm a liar because I have not been able to rewatch it. And one of my big things for the I can do this all day ranking itself is, would I recommend this to people where it's like this is a must watch? This isn't a must watch for mass appeal. This is a must watch for certain individuals. So yeah, kind of goes down my rankings. But one that I definitely said that I could not do this all day, which was a surprise to you, was our retro rewind for the 70s, which is the same episode, by the way. It was Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon. And I said I couldn't do it all day. And I'm a Bruce Lee fan. It is just like I grew up watching all of his movies, and I said no for some reason. And I don't know why. I think I just wanted to. I think I just had a brain cramp in my head as to like, yeah, like I'm just gonna be different. And so no, I absolutely can do it all day. And I've actually seen that twice since we've done the retro rewind for that movie. So yeah, those are the big two regrets that I'm just like, yep, I lied. I lied to our audience on the same episode. I lied. But it wasn't really out of like, oh, I'm trying to be cool about it. It's like, no, I was just trying to be open-minded. And in my attempt to be open-minded, I ended up closing my mind for what my true self was.
That was very um philosophic of you to say there. It was very, I feel like you should be doing Tai Chi while reciting that to find your
Maybe.
center.
Center, which has a wonderful feeling like the Fleshlight. And that's something that we should definitely get on the podcast as a sponsor. So Fleshlight, once again, holler at your boy. We'll have a flashlight counter at the top of the screen. So yeah, I think we're on like 8 or 9 for that.
And that was by far the worst one.
Or the best, depending on
I-
how it makes you feel.
Maybe that's why we're not, because I think that the funny stuff that I say is good. And maybe that's what's holding us back. Maybe I'm holding us back.
If you have a master tight grip on that, flashlight will just be even better for you. So, but other than that, like what else do you think that you want to do for the podcast? We're at episode 100. what else is in store for us as we venture into the unknown.
I don't think I have a vision other than, you know, keep doing it because I think that it's just been a good way to connect and to just have a fun conversation with my friend. You know, that's how I always have looked at this is just, you know, let's just have some fun. You know, I'm not bored with fucking around like this. I you know, legitimately enjoy it and absolutely could do this all day.
Well said. Well said. Obviously, we can do this all day because we're still doing it 100 episodes later.
Oh,
100 times.
100 times.
Well, I think we have given the listeners and viewers a nice little recap as to how our journey has made it to where it's at today. But I think we're going to sign off now. So until next time, this is Dan the Part-Time Avenger. That's Mark the Resident Jedi.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Go back, watch the back catalog. There's 100 other opportunities to hear us talk. Isn't that exciting? And hopefully maybe there'll be 100 more in the future. And we hope episode 200 is way better than this one and that it includes you know, a Fleshlight sponsorship. Let's be honest.
Ding. All right, we'll see you next time, everybody. You're still here?
Come on, guys, it's over.
Go home. Go.
Bye.